All right, so as promised, here is a dedicated video on version 1 of the bomb. So again, if you haven't seen my other video talking about the Cub on the whole, I can post a link to that. But what we have here is a primarily 3D printed replica of an AN-M30 100-pound general purpose bomb, as it would have seen use in World War II with the Civil Air Patrol. Again, this is mostly 3D printed. The kind of main body section of the bomb itself is 8-inch HVAC tubing, but other than that, the bomb is all 3D printed. And then the mount there is the shackle portion is made of wood and some 3D printed parts. And then the top kind of yellow, you can just see a yellow line there, but it's kind of a whole panel there, is a piece of cork-backed poster board, foam board, with magnets. So it's actually attached to the airplane via magnets. Strictly a ground display only item. I do not fly with this like this. In fact, this particular setup, the magnets are barely strong enough to hold it up as it is just sitting here. I am planning on redoing both the mount and the bomb ahead of this summer's season for a couple of reasons. For one, again, that mount is woefully inadequate, and I have kind of a design in mind for how to beef that up and make it quite a bit stronger if things work out the way I think they will. So I'm gonna redo that design with some stronger magnets and different positioning, a little bit different design to make that mount much stronger than it currently is. But then the other issue I have is this bomb is all one piece, and the Cub is not a very big airplane. And frankly, I cannot fit the bomb comfortably in the airplane to travel with. So, for example, I went to one air show and one fly-in this past summer with the bomb, and for both events, I had to bring the bomb in a car separately ahead of time to put on the airplane, which is obviously less than ideal. And if I go to anything that's further away from home, just simply won't be possible. So what I'm going to do for version 2 is I'm going to make the bomb in sections that break down, and I'll have some storage there behind the pilot. I think if I do it right, I can store the pieces there behind the pilot with it broken down. And then again, just a stronger mount so that I'm not constantly worried about the thing falling off if a gust of wind hits it or that sort of thing. But yeah, so that is version 1 of the bomb. I talked a little bit in my other video too about, okay, how historically accurate is this? Well, again, Civil Air Patrol did fly with these bombs in World War II. They did fly small light aircraft on Coastal Patrol, and some of them were armed. There was a J-3 Cub that was flying for North Carolina Wing, flying Coastal Patrol. I do not know whether that Cub was armed. I'm guessing probably not, and the reason I say that is it was Civil Air Patrol policy to arm airplanes with 90 horsepower or more. Cub from the factory was only 65 horsepower, right? Even this one is only 85. However, then as now, right, just because it came from the factory one way doesn't mean it stayed that way. It's possible that that Cub in North Carolina may have been modified with a higher horsepower motor, and it's also possible that, you know, there's an exception to the rule. So who knows? That being said, I based this mount off pictures I do have of a similarly sized Stinson that was armed. Now, in the photos I have the Stinson, the bomb was on the other side of the airplane. This was truly just a, you know, kind of dealer's choice. What side do I want to put it on to make the most sense? Because again, I have attached to magnets, which means I had to kind of put it close to one of the fuselage tubes there so that the magnets would have something to attach to. But what you see there, this bottom, and it's not very well modeled. I'm going to do a much better job on the second version, but this was kind of quick and dirty to get it going. But the gray part sticking down is what's known as the shackle. I forget the exact designator of the shackle that would have been used. I have it saved somewhere, but that's the shackle that the bomb attaches to, and then of course when actuated would release the toggles. You can also see there the arming wire of the bomb. So there's a fuse on the nose of the bomb as well as a fuse down in the tail. When the bomb is dropped, the wire would pull out of those little holes there and allow the propeller on the bombs, on the fuses, it's rather, to spin, and after a certain number of revolutions, the bomb would be armed, right? And that wire attaches here to the shackle. So it was possible if the bombs were to be just jettisoned and not dropped on a target, that essentially what would happen is the bomb would be dropped without that safety wire being held onto by the shackle, which would then cause, you know, the bomb to just fall without the little propellers on the fuses turning, and it would never arm. Or if it's going to be dropped in anger, as it will, the hooks on the bomb hangers themselves would be released, but the shackle would hold on to the arming wire, and those would pull out and arm the whole deal, right? So the pictures of the Stinson with the bomb, you can see what they did was they set up that shackle actually mounted up inside the airplane a little bit, and I would assume through a cable mechanism of some kind. The top of the shackle has little levers on it that in an actual like a B-17, B-25, you know, bigger bombers would be electrically actuated. There's some really good videos out there on YouTube that kind of show how that would all work. Those levers would be electrically actuated to arm the bombs and to drop them. I suspect in, you know, like I said, the small Stinson and the small Civil Air Patrol airplanes, that would be, you know, just a cable actuated of that lever, or for that matter, if it's close enough to the pilot, you know, depending on how it's mounted, might even be able to just reach down and hit it manually. So that's kind of what I based my design off from, is a design similar to that, but again, without strong historical documentation. It's mainly up to my interpretation on how I wanted to do it. But if the airplane was not armed, typical Civil Air Patrol, Coastal Patrol airplanes fly with crew of 2, and they would fly in pairs. And each airplane would have, you know, the pilot and then a radio operator. And that, again, that almost lends itself a little bit to my theory on whether the Cub might have been armed, is already, you know, a Piper Cub with 2 crew members and the radios of the day, and the batteries to operate the radios of the day, was already more weight than a Cub would typically be dealing with. So that, to me, increases the likelihood that it was not a standard Cub and that it had a higher horsepower motor of some kind. But again, that's pure speculation. But in terms of, you know, when you think about the actual gross weight carrying capacity of the Cub, you know, again, 100 pounds plus, you know, call it another 25 pounds of shackle and mechanisms and such. So you're adding 125 pounds to the airplane. For 2 smallish adults in the airplane, another 125 pounds is not outside the realm of possibility, certainly. So again, I call it firmly feasible that a Cub could be armed with this size bomb, and that there is nothing out there that would lead me to believe that this is impossible. I think it's firmly in the realm of feasible. It's firmly possible. But I still don't think it's likely. But it is certainly a good conversation piece when you walk up to a relatively unsuspecting little friendly Piper Cub and then you see a bomb hanging off it. It definitely prompts conversations, which truthfully is the whole point. It's what I like to do. So yeah, so there you have it. Bomb on a Cub.